Well, on that note, moving on, Y Combinator-backed Decentro is a banking and payments API infrastructure startup which has just raised $4.7 million. The Series A fundraise was led by Rapyd Ventures, Leon's VC, and Uncorrelated Ventures. A whole host of Indian angels also participated in this round. Now, the Bengaluru-based fintech startup will utilize the funds to scale up hiring across its business, product, tech, and operations team. Joining us now to discuss this further is Rohit Taneja, the founder and CEO of Decentro. Rohit, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. You essentially help startups that want to enter the fintech market by deploying its APIs. Can you explain to us what this means and how are you helping add value to your clients?
Sure, absolutely. So the number one problem that any company or especially startups face, right, in today's market, whenever they're launching any fintech product or banking product, is the sheer amount of time and money they have to spend, right, just to launch the product. And this is true across the world. Of course, we're starting from India as a first market. And the core reason why it takes so much time and money is because of the way the bank structure is run, right? The way the bank's processes are run. It's just the tech documentation, the APIs availability, whole host of problems from a banking perspective. That's essentially what we are solving, right? So the way we solve it is we integrate with the banks one time. It's a one-time integration with them, which increasingly leads to a higher ROI from a customer integration perspective because they don't have to worry about the banking integration ever. Like we take care of basically everything end to end from ground up, including compliance, including the technology, including upgrades, including operations, etc. Yeah.
All right. And post this fundraise, you all also have said that your valuation has jumped about 3.3 times.
Yep.
Can you tell us what it is at now? Also, how do you plan to use these funds?
Sure. Yeah. We're now at close to a $40 million valuation.
Okay.
The key use of these funds will primarily be twofold. One, we're hiring across tech and business, right? So we're going deep into the categories that we already own, and there are some new categories that we're planning to crack. Few of the categories that we are going into will be on the lending side, on the marketplaces side, right? Few of these larger enterprises that we have not yet talked to.
Right.
That's one. And similarly on the product itself, right? So till now we were in the phase one of the journey where we were solving for payments, KYC, some of these lower hanging fruits. Now we'll be going into more complex banking products like card issuance, account issuance, etc.
All right, so some complex products there, but take me through what you already have on offer. And you said what's in the pipeline. So where will the next leg of growth come from?
Sure, yeah. So what we have right now in terms of products, the core product is payments. Essentially what we solve is your payment collection and settlements, right? So imagine if you're a marketplace, right? You have a two-sided network. You have to get money in from the buyers and then send it to the sellers. That's one classic example, of simplifying and automating payments via APIs. That essentially is the core product. Built on top of that, the use cases multiply, right? So marketplaces is one use case. You have gaming company, there's another use case. Few of the other common categories in the market. Fintechs, which are planning to collect money for subscriptions, right? Those are other use cases as well. That's essentially what we have as a core product.
Okay.
Apart from that, KYC is a second standalone module itself, which is fairly useful for pretty much any kind of onboarding of a consumer or a business, be it an SME or be it an individual. And coming to your second question, how the next phase of growth will come in from. I think one is we rely on top of our customers, right? So ultimately, it's a B2B product, which is embedded into the customer's product itself, which means that we grow by default when the customers do. So that's a beautiful model that we have here from a business perspective.
Right.
At the same time, we're also targeting, as I mentioned, larger enterprises and marketplaces, which we have not yet tapped into. Companies which have been existing in the market for 8 years, 10 years or so, right? Which already have higher volumes. Yeah.
All right. And speaking of your business model, your revenues have grown by over 35 times since your seed round in October of last year. And that's not all. You've also clocked an average of 70 million of annualized API transactions over the last 12 months. So take me through the revenues you're currently clocking and what are the targets that you've set for yourself going forward?
Sure. Yeah. I think the key targets that we are looking at least in the next 12 months or so, are on an optimistic note close to 4x, right? At least 4x, I would say, of the current numbers. Currently, we are clocking a little over $2 million in annualized revenue. This is across primarily API transactions. That is our bread and butter. And yeah, of course, the key growth, as I mentioned, will half come from the existing customers' growth and then the remaining half coming in from new customers, which are fairly large in nature. Yeah.
Okay. And you're also looking to acquire licenses to launch in Singapore. So what's the plan on that front? What's the expansion plan here? And how hard is it to get these licenses as you plan to expand going forward?
Right. Licenses, like I think the acquisition license is not an easy game, right? It's fairly regulated, of course, by default. At the same time, there's a capital requirement, there's a compliance requirement, there's also a team structure requirement, right? So they go deep into what kind of management you have, what kind of banking you have, backing you have, those kind of things. That's going to be a moat for sure, right? We will leverage these licenses to launch, as I said, the second phase, which is more complex products like account issuance and bank card issuance. In Singapore, we are starting first with payments. That's the core product, again, just like phase one here in India. Yeah.
All right. And how soon will you be starting in Singapore?
Oh, pretty soon. In fact, you can expect an announcement, I think, in the next month or so. Yeah.
All right, Rohit. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. We're completely out of time, but we wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you so much.
All right.